Hi, everybody. Welcome back. I'm really excited about this week's episode of Leading Digital Era. But before we start, I just want to announce next month's a little bit early. We're lucky enough to have a friend of the show, a friend of mine, a friend of all of us. John Napoli will be joining us. John has his new book out called AI Achieving Impact. I got the opportunity to read, as one of our friends called, the beta version of the book. It's fantastic. I've read it a couple times since then, but I'm very excited that John will be joining us next month to launch his book. Well, it's already launched, but talk about his book and get some other people who will be joining us as well to get their perspective on how AI and how his book and AI can help you in your company's journey. But for today, we have a really exciting episode. Last month, Nora Osman had called me, and we were on the tails of our customer experience journey conversation. And Nora approached me about employee experience, and I never really dove very deep in that, and I didn't see the connection between the two. But it got me thinking. EX is just as crucial as CX, and yet it often gets overlooked. So I knew it would be a great follow-up discussion. And then Nora introduced me to Sam Stern and Rebecca Roark, and I followed what was an incredible month of new connections, insights, learning, diving deep into employee experience, and then the total experience, which opened my eyes to how deeply EX really impacts CX and ultimately drives business success. When companies invest in their employees and create environments where people feel valued and empowered, leading to stronger engagement, better service, lasting customer relationships. I'm really looking forward to exploring how EX comes together to shape the human experience. And today, that's what drives, I think, the heart and that gets to the heart of people's success. So I'm excited to dive deep into this panel and bring them to the stage. So first, we'll welcome Nora Osman. Hi, Nora.
Hey, Robert.
It's good to see you. It's about time. Uh, Nora fought me for a long time using every one of Richard Bliss's tactics. We both worked together at an organization separately. We both worked the same organization but separately. But Nora, after following her on her circuit for a while, came to us. We connected for a while and is now a fellow and a friend and finally joining me on Leading Digital Era. Nora, with over 20 years of experience transforming customer service organizations, Nora is a passionate leader in customer experience with digital transformation. She's successfully turned around many service teams, but building award-winning organizations that earned her Wharton Global CXO certificate. Nor believes that exceptional customer experiences don't happen by chance. They result from empowering teams, streamlined processes, and smart technologies. Through her company Nirvana, she helps executives eliminate gaps in talent, optimize operations, and position their business as leaders in CX and digital transformation. A sought-after speaker, writer, and strategist, Nora is dedicated to helping organizations shift from struggling with their customer satisfaction to delivering wow experience. I said that good, wow experiences that drive loyalty and business success. Welcome, Nora.
Thank you.
So before we bring everybody else on stage, I know I wanted to just grab you for a quick second and explain to the audience real quick why this came to your mind and your passion behind it.
I've always thought about the beginning of the equation really is the employees. And a lot of times it's taken for granted that we have employees, but are they really highly engaged and motivated? And I've seen time and time again that the more we empower, engage, and motivate our employees, the more they are absolutely our biggest asset. And that's where organizations thrive and create that distinguishing factor, and they have the edge over their competitors. So for me, it just makes so much sense that EX starts before CX. You need to have that first.
Thank you, Nora, and I appreciate you opening up my eyes to this topic, and I'm really excited today's conversation. So with that, I'd like to welcome a new friend of mine that was introduced to me by Nora, Rebecca Roark. Roark, did I say that right? Rebecca, did I pronounce it right? Thank you.
Yeah, Rebecca Roark, yes.
So again, before I introduce Rebecca, I do want to point out one thing. And while we're celebrating International Women's Month, it's a few days after International Women's Day, I insisted on, and due to another friend of the show, Andrea Markstrom, who has this Wonder Woman process that when women start their day and they feel less empowered than they do, she has this Wonder Woman technique that I think everyone should experience. And if you haven't yet, please come to Hard Will Summit coming up in April. But when Rebecca did the prep for this, she said, oh, I'll be sitting in my cubicle in my home office where you can see me. I insisted, please stay with your Wonder Woman to empower and celebrate women all the time. So, Rebecca, I appreciate you staying there and celebrating all the Wonder Women that are out there watching us every day.
Love it. Thanks for letting me be authentic.
Well, I appreciate your authenticity. And Rebecca is a dynamic leader with nearly 2 decades of experience in corporate America, where she played key roles in scaling startups from 13 to 450 employees. Following the company's successful acquisition, she transitioned the role of Vice President of Human Resources for US and Canada, leading HR operations with a focus on mergers and acquisitions, cultural integration, and business growth strategies. Driven by a passion for empowering businesses and individuals, Rebecca co-founded Gather Resources along with her husband, a firm specializing in recruiting, business and HR consulting, and health and life insurance solutions. With a people-first mindset, which is really, really important in EX, they need to grow and thrive. Rebecca's expertise is building strong workplace cultures and driving business successes, which makes her a sought-after leader in the HR consulting space. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Robert.
And rounding out our panel today is Sam Stern. Hey, Sam.
Hey, Robert.
Sam comes from a small brand that I don't know much about, sarcasm here, called LinkedIn. Sam leads the service design team at LinkedIn, helping to design and deliver the delightful experience of the platform's 1 billion members, and customers, as well as LinkedIn employees. Sam has also created 3 LinkedIn learning courses on customer and employee experience and hosts his own weekly podcast, CX Patterns. Please, everyone, subscribe and follow. In past, Sam worked with customers and employees experiencing research practices and quality as well. Sam, thank you for joining us.
Great to be here. Thank you for having me.
So before we get into the heart of our questions, I'd just like to get to each one of you really quick. And Sam, since you were last to join, I'm going to hit you up first. What's your definition or meaning behind EX?
Yeah, so when I think about employee experience, I think about the impression, the perception, the feeling that an employee has about where they work. And that's characterized by small things. Can you do your daily work? Can you be productive? Where do you work? And it's characterized by big things. Do you make meaningful progress in your career? Do you feel supported by the organization? But it's that perception on the employee's part I think of as their experience, because it's in their minds, whether it's a good experience or a bad experience. And so there's plenty of factors we can control, which we're going to talk about, but there's other things as well.
Thank you, Sam. Nora, how about you?
I agree with Sam. It's really what people feel, what they go through. It's their journey. Similar to how we talk about customer journey, it's the employee journey. Their day-to-day, it's what gets them up and motivated to go to work, or what diffuses them when they're having a bad day. So it's really the whole aspect of their experience that comes together.
Thank you, Nora. And Rebecca.
Yeah, I think that it starts at the beginning. I always call it red carpet in, red carpet out. What you feel whenever you're walking through the door. And then everything in between is so huge. And I think that that's where a lot of things are forgotten, allowing people to have that space to know why they're there, what they contribute to the organization, and how that impacts the customers, the revenue, and what they do and how that matters. And making sure that their leaders empower them to know what that is really creates that experience that's going to give you an outcome that your customers and everybody is going to experience. It's fantastic.
I love that. As an IT leader, we grow up thinking everyone's our customer, and we forget about the EX first, right? And it's interesting to me that we push so hard on customer first mentality, forgetting that your first customer are your employees. This was an excellent week, and Rebecca, as we mentioned, having someone at the center of the human component of an organization is critical to this panel. And Nora and Sam, who's building the platform, and Nora, who's driving the customer experience through the facilitation of all those experiences. This, to me, is the perfect panel to actually have this conversation. So we're going to jump into our first curated questions, right, until someone derails us. But so let's start with you, Rebecca, and if you don't mind, how can organizations foster a culture that supports consistently positive employee experience?
I think part of it is getting to know your employees and then allowing them an opportunity to know what they contribute to the organization and how that affects not only their customers, but their team members, as well as their revenue. I think that so many times as leaders, we forget that employees want to know, how is the company making money and how do I impact that? So allowing them that opportunity to know and have a voice in that change. Ask them what's working, what's not working, and how can we make that better? And then bringing them along in that process. And I think a huge miss that we have a lot of times is that we sometimes take that information and then we just go away with it, and they never hear feedback and follow up. And the term ghosting is so big now, and employees are tired of being ghosted. So allowing your people to have a seat at the table, creating ambassadors and rotating that around to make sure that people are telling you what's working and what's not, because they see it before you do as leaders.
I'm curious though, if they're not giving you feedback, how do you pull that out of them?
Out of the employees, I recommend a mentorship program, because sometimes it's a little bit intimidating to go to their leader. Part of the reason that becomes intimidating is because so many times leaders don't allow you to fail, and they don't allow you to ask the hard questions that maybe you're not comfortable answering. And so it's okay to say, I don't know, and I'm going to go find out. It's okay to allow your employees to have a safe space to tell you what's not working. And so many times as leaders, we take that personal and we shut that down. So what we need to do is create an opportunity for people to feel comfortable to give us feedback that makes us uncomfortable. And then next, allowing maybe their peers. Maybe there's somebody fantastic on your team who knows how to get this information out of people. Allow them to have some time to have a mentor program where they can get that information out of people and they can bring it back to you. And I think that when you dive into even the person who's struggling on your team, but they used to be dynamic, why are they struggling? Well, let's go find out. And allowing that space is really huge. And I think that I have found in my career that the most successful organizations that I've been a part of, we went, we asked, and we took what we were failing. We took that to heart and we embraced it and we owned it. And then we gave that transparency back to them. And it created and fostered an environment where people were running to my door, knocking on my door, telling me what was broken.
Thank you. Nora, how about you? What do you feel an organization could do to foster a consistent, positive employee experience?
Well, there's so many thoughts going through my head. And as Rebecca was wrapping up, I was thinking about cultivating a culture of psychological safety. Because if people don't feel that they belong, that they can bring their whole self to the table, to the organization, then they're always holding back and you're not going to get the best from them. And so I think it starts with simple things like look, listen, and learn as leaders. You have to look to see what is working, what they're saying, what they're not saying. You have to listen to what they're saying and how they're expressing frustrations and how they're expressing their desires. And whether you're doing that in a verbal context or you're doing them through employee surveys or annual surveys or whatever kind of mechanism you're collecting feedback, you really need to get that going so that you can actually hear clearly what needs to be done. And then learning from trial and error as well. But I think it has a lot to do with also giving people space to execute. I love the AMP acronym that I've been using, which is autonomy, mastery, and purpose. And this is from the Daniel Pink book, Drive, where he talks about motivation and engagement and thinking about how allowing people to have some agency, some space to execute and not having everything be a command and control mechanism. And then also letting people master something and feel confident in what they produce. And that is a big, big thing for a lot of individuals. They want to be, not perfectionists, but the best that they can be. And then obviously the most critical thing is for people to feel a mission, the purpose. All of that is really, really important.
Thanks, Nora. And I like the part about the team, especially with your Wonder Woman group behind you. I don't think I didn't notice that back there also, all the event just taking place. Thank you for representing.
Talking about the image. Well, I think this came out as a byproduct of cultivating highly engaged teams for a decade or so in my last organization. I believe that each of us had unique superpowers. And I used to joke with my team about that. One person was Superman, another one was Catwoman. We had Captain America. And it was really, really interesting. They saw me as Wonder Woman. And this is kind of one of the things we talked about, Rebecca and I, how we also felt that way in the way we approached our jobs. But when I was leaving, they actually made this character image, and they put me in the middle as Wonder Woman and themselves embodying their superheroes. So I thought that was very, very touching, and it stayed with me for a long time.
Thank you, Nora. So Sam, how about you? Organizations fostering a culture that supports consistent positive experience, employee experience.
Yeah, so this is actually something that I did a lot of research on when I was at Forrester, in collaboration with a colleague who's still there named David Johnson. And I think we have a graphic that maybe we could put up while I'm talking about this a little bit, because it really builds on a lot of what Rebecca and Nora were just saying. But we did this survey with thousands and thousands of employees in different countries. And what we found are these were the factors, if you broke it down, that contributed most to employees saying the things you want them to say, which is that they want to stay at your organization, that they feel like they can be productive every day, that they feel like it's a great place to work and do business with. So it was an NPS high score and an eNPS high score. So you really were getting all these factors that you'd want, right? Productive, happy employees drawing in other talented employees. And they said they felt this way when they felt empowered, when they felt inspired. And I think Nora was talking a lot about that, the purpose, and when they felt enabled by the technology and tools and training that they had been provided. And I really think a lot of this connects back to what Rebecca was saying about they want to know how the organization succeeds, how it makes money. I really don't think we need to sugarcoat everything we're putting in front of employees about, oh, it's going to be this great place to work. It'll be easy. We'll have all these nice things. They want to come and do good work and work hard and be successful. And they want to know how their success contributes to company success. That's the connection with purpose and mission. It doesn't have to always be we're changing the world for the better. It can be, what is our firm's reason for being, and how does my role contribute to fulfilling that? That is meaningful. And so I think you can directly connect a lot of these things to the success of the business, which shortens the path between what employees want to be successful at and what you're hoping it will lead to success for the firm overall.
Sam, I love that slide, and I think and I love this concept. And we talked about this, and you and I had our one-on-one. This light bulbs all over all day long, and it's a simple checklist to just ask yourself if those needs are being met, and ask yourself, are you meeting your team's needs or your employees? It takes the guesswork out of and maintain a high performing environment, I think. And I love that.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point. And that's, the work that I'm doing, my team is doing at LinkedIn. It's a lot about saying which of our groups of employees are not enabled today by their tools, by the technology, and what can we do to clear away some of that clutter, some of those hurdles, make it easier for them to focus on their most important work, be productive, make progress, and feel like the tools they have support them in doing that rather than inhibit them from doing that.
And LinkedIn's the only platform that promotes for engagement over everything else. So having that engagement is important. So you guys are doing a good job.
Yeah.
So I think we have a first question here from Nicole. Beyond traditional engagement surveys, what are the most insightful ways to measure, track the success of EX initiatives? And Nicole, we did not share that question. We were going to do it anyway, so thank you. Rebecca, do you want to start with that question?
Well, I mean, one of the first things you can look at is your turnover. Your turnover is going to be huge if you don't have an engaged group. People want a purpose, and owning what our problems are is part of that, because then they get to be a part of that solution. So I think looking at our turnover, seeing if people are bringing in referrals. Are you having to, recruit highly and use staffing companies and agencies, or are people bringing people to you? Are they referring people to your company? Are they leaving reviews? Those are very simple ways to look at it. I think along with that is, are they going above and beyond? Not just in, engagement surveys. Of course, we can look at ROI. Do we see any type of engagement there? But also, are they bringing new things to the table of, hey, this is what's going on, and I think this will work better. And when you start seeing people knocking at your door, wanting to give you feedback of what's working and what's not, you don't need a survey to tell you that. You feel it. The energy is there. You can walk throughout that company and you can feel that this is a family that cares. And I know family is kind of, you're not supposed to use it in the workplace, but when it's going well, it does feel like a family, a harmony. You can feel that buzz and that hum. When I used to walk the floors of one of my favorite companies I've been a part of, there was a buzz on that floor where everybody felt like this was their company. And I have people ask me all the time, how do you get loyal employees like that? And that's what we did. We made sure that everyone knew that without them, we wouldn't be there. So I think just really getting out there and talking to your people and walking the floor, less surveys and more interaction.
Sam, Nora, any ways you guys see of measuring DX?
I mean, if you're talking about pure measurements, you see it in attendance, right? When you have a disengaged workforce, all kinds of excuses for why people don't come to the office or don't show up on time or don't put their cameras on, even on meetings, even if there's just small internal meetings. So you see it very clearly. But I also think you see it in times of adversity. When there's a major storm, disengaged teams or organizations are much harder to rally behind a purpose versus very engaged teams. And I think it got very easily tested during the pandemic. And obviously, we don't have to talk about that very heavily, but you could see where you had strong teams that stepped up and carried the torch forward and did amazing work in that time because they cared. They cared about each other. They cared about the company. They cared about the mission. They cared about you as a leader. And you didn't have to spell out the why very, very heavily. They were already feeling it and doing what's necessary and going beyond.
Thank you, Nora. Sam, any math behind this opportunity?
Yeah, sure, a little bit, because I'm going to sort of go in a slightly different direction from Nora and Rebecca, but first just want to underline, I do think a lot of those informal measures, I love the buzz on the floor concept, the willingness to show discretionary effort when it's required. I think those are important measures. I would also say you could survey as complement to a annual engagement survey. You could do almost weekly surveys at the team level, at the manager to individual contributor level of, were you able to make meaningful progress on your most important work today and this week? Were you able to focus on your most important work? Is there anything inhibiting you or getting in your way? This can start to be the early sensing for some of the factors that might be getting in their way. And again, I think going back to that idea of employees want to be productive at work. They want to get their most important work done. So asking directly about that, especially as a manager, allows you to be hyper attuned to anything that you could do or need to do or are not doing that can make it easier for them to be productive and to feel good about the work that they're producing. So I would just say complementing what Nora and Rebecca said, because I think they contributed some great wisdom already.
Thank you. I do like the equation though, right? Because we are talking about an equation. We have another question here from 𝗚𝘂𝘀𝘁𝘀. How do you inspire people to take part in a greater purpose and mission when they are narrowly focused on just their role and responsibilities? It's a really interesting question. So, Nora, you want to take this one first?
I think it comes down to connecting them with the bigger mission and goal. And I don't think enough organizations actually take people through understanding their business. And I know that for a fact because I've seen it in some of the companies I've worked in. And I'll just give you an example. I had a service desk operation as part of my organization. And of course, they're taking calls, they're helping customers with technical support, but they didn't truly understand the gravity of what they're doing and its importance until they actually started walking through a formal touring program that we did for 4 days, and they visited almost every site, saw almost every department, and came back so engaged and so excited and so inspired to really do more. It wasn't until they actually infiltrated the business and felt the presence of the mission and what they were doing, and how what they did really added to that and helped, that it really changed the game quite a bit. So I think it has a lot more to do with taking the time to actually explain the why, to share the why, and give them experiences that they normally wouldn't have.
Yeah, if I could add something to this, I think there's a technique here that would apply really well called bright spot analysis. And you can use this with the employee as an individual to show them instances where they have acted already to take part in the greater purpose or mission of the organization. If not doing it often, but there are some exceptions to that. You can highlight those. In this instance, I saw you doing this. I saw you really connect to this. I'd love to see you do that more often. And if there's no evidence of that for the individual, you can show them where some of their peers, some of their team members, some people in similar roles have done that, and highlight how that was meaningful to that individual or that group of individuals or those individuals, to highlight that this is not something that is going to be exhausting or frustrating to you to have to do something maybe that you feel is outside of your direct responsibilities, but something that can be inspiring and build motivation for the rest of your work. And I like sometimes to use those positive, specific examples, either of the individual's exception to their normal behavior or their peers as models of that behavior, to show them that it is possible within the current role. You don't have to become, and we have Wonder Woman all over this video cast, but you don't have to become a superhero to do this. You can do this within the context of your existing role.
Rebecca, any input on this one?
No, absolutely. I think that a lot of times the mission and vision of an organization is painted on a wall and it's in your handbook when you walk in the door, but it's not continued to be embraced by the leadership. And so you can put in programs where you are suggesting other people as ambassadors, or somebody who did something great that month, and they give all of these examples, and you can tie it in. You know, what individuals on your team did you see lead with our mission and vision and our values? And you share those amongst the organizations. And I've put these programs in place with many clients. And, you know, you get 2 or 3 at the very beginning, and then before you know it, there's 30 or 40 recommendations, and you get to share that with the company. And that inspires everyone to start doing better. There might be a few that don't, but you're going to grow that engagement because people want to be a part of a purpose. We've all hit on purpose. It is something that people, you know, when you drive home at the end of the day, you want to be able to leave work where it is, but you also want to feel good that you gave something, no matter what position you are in that company. So I think leveraging that as leadership, we have to continue to not only walk the walk, talk the talk, but don't forget about it in our daily interactions with our people, of exactly what Sam said, highlighting what they did, no matter how small or big it is.
Yeah, you're spot on. I think it's the storytelling.
Yes.
We all love stories. Doesn't matter where you are in the organization. It's about hearing the stories. That's why we love podcasts, because they're mostly unscripted. That's why we like to go to the movies.
Well, I think we also want to know where we live in that story. I had a really heartfelt experience. We were at I ran global IT for a manufacturing company, and our CEO encouraged us to engage with everyone at a holiday party. I asked the machinist what he does, and he told me he made a part, and that's all he made. But luckily enough, we were at the holiday party where the salesperson was there and the engineer, and we got everyone together. And the part he made happened to be for a med tech device that saves lives every year and every day. And he now knows that the part he makes has a bigger picture, and where he plays the role in that picture. He's not just making a part every day on this part of the factory assembly line. And connecting those people, connecting all people through that whole life cycle of where they go, is just takes a moment of being cerebral and stepping out of your space into theirs and telling what part they are in the story.
I think you're spot on. It's about associating value with your contribution, right? I think everybody wants to feel valuable, and what they're doing is of value of some sort, right? Connecting that dot.
So we're into our third question. How can leaders and managers create moments that matter for their teams? And I might have started with one, but have you guys experienced any of these in your career, where some of those moments that you've seen shape employees' experiences within your organizations? And Nora, I see you deep in thought, so I think you might have one in mind.
So your question is around how we shape their experiences, how we improve their employee
How we've
experience?
created some key moments that have shaped employees' experiences.
I
The moments that matter for your teams.
have to go back to what Rebecca said in the beginning, because I wanted to share this example. It's the red carpet treatment. Treating our employees like they are VIPs is not just a nice to do, it's crucial. And I think it does start with their onboarding. When they come in and they feel like we've been waiting for them and we've been preparing for them, and we've set an agenda to introduce them, we've got a goodie bag, we're making sure that they are actually where they need to be, and they're not feeling like they're the new kid on the block and everybody's watching them. I think that goes a long way. And there are metrics around engagement related to good onboarding experiences. But I also think while they're there, feeling that they're special and that they continuously have the red carpet, not just as they're exiting, Rebecca. And I'm just going to share a very, very short story. We used to celebrate National Customer Service Week every year at my last organization. And the last year we did it was right before the pandemic. We decided to have a big gala event. And for IT, we literally rented a red carpet and we had a nice splash screen and we had a photographer and we treated our employees like they were superstars. And they walked in and everybody was glammed up. And I can't tell you how many people still talk about that one event and how that shifted the way they felt about their role and their importance in the organization. And of course, you could do a lot of things with trophies and giveaways and compensation and bonuses. But believe it or not, that pomp and circumstance once in a while, and people feeling like they're worthy of all of that extra organization and orchestration, it really goes a long way. And even if they have something that has their name on it or a tchotchke that's personal to them, it really stays with them for a very long time.
Sam, how about you? How are you guys creating these experiences?
Yeah, so I think we were alluding to it before, maybe even talking about it explicitly, but I love the idea of, as leaders, as managers of individuals, noticing, spotting them doing something well, and it could even be doing something consistently, quietly well, not this amazing over the top interaction, but something that they just show up and do their job well every day. And you're there to observe it, you're there to see it. Recognizing them in the moment as it's happening, because it reinforces, it sort of imprints that thing you just did, that we can both remember, even for those of us with poor long-term memories. Maybe I'm talking about myself there. That we will remember what it was that we got recognized for. We will remember and associate it with positive reinforcement, and that creates that kind of memory that is very complementary to what Nora was just talking about. But I think also fills in between all these other little peaks, these little moments in my experience as an employee of your company that add to some of those big or monumental tentpole peak moments in the experience as well.
And Rebecca, how about you on this one?
So I think some of the greatest feedback that I still get, this is 20 years later from an organization, are a few things. We celebrated anniversaries every single month. We took them out to a restaurant and we got up, and all of our executives and leadership team, we spoke about these individuals. We handed them gift cards, awards, all those good things that they would go back, and it was almost like an honor to see it in their cubicle of how many years of service they've been there. That was huge, and I still get feedback today on it. We did things like, hey, how can we help save money? Because we don't do layoffs, and employees are so concerned about layoffs in this current climate, especially, where we did things like, hey, tell us some things that we can do to save money, ideas that you have. And if we implement it and it works, we'll give you a little bit of a bonus. I mean, people were like, hey, these light kits, we have different lightings we can use. I mean, so many things were coming out of that where they felt engaged and heard. Emails. I encouraged our leadership, hey, if you have an email, or if your employee has a great experience, they do something that's small, big, whatever it is, send that over to the executive team and to HR, because HR sometimes can be looked at as the principal. So what better than whenever HR comes out and celebrates you at your desk in front of everyone, calls you into HR for a great thing to tell you what you did that was so awesome. It all not only gives HR a great opportunity to give some positive feedback, but it shows that their leaders are buying into them and that they're talking about them behind their back and saying what great jobs they did. And this drove so much engagement that people would go to those individuals, teach me how to do this so that I can get those kudos. And it just rolls. It's fantastic. I highly encourage everybody to do those.
Well, I think we fulfilled our quote about giving people tools and tips that they can use to drive employee engagement here. So, the employee experience. So, Sam, let me ask you a question. What role does technology and process play in enhancing or hindering the employee experience?
Yes. Well, so in most of our roles, and you go down to like the most in-person role where you're interfacing in a retail store or a restaurant, you're still using so much technology in your daily work. And so if that technology doesn't work well for enabling you to do your work well, that depends on that technology, it feels backbreaking. It feels like you are just constantly being inhibited and struggling to get back to the starting line. And that's really frustrating. That just saps energy and enthusiasm for the work. So technology can be a huge detriment. When it works well, it does all the things, it enables all the things we want for employees. Imagine a call center employee who, instead of having 10 screens with slow loading application, has everything in context, is able to then truly engage on the phone or in the chat with that customer, be present, and customers can see that right away, can feel that coming through. That really is powerful to now uplift that employee with the technology being the platform for them to act more human, to be the best version of themselves, to connect with your customers and to connect with their colleagues, share more information because it's easier to share, work really well together in ways that we want to see, but oftentimes the technology is inhibiting rather than enabling that. So that's where I see technology coming in. It either is drowning employees because it's slow and cumbersome, or it's uplifting them and making them more human and more better versions of themselves. And that's how they feel, is that they're doing it, but it was the technology that sort of built them up on that platform.
Well, a nice addition to that technology question might be Nancy's question here is, in a remote first organization, what are some ideas for engagement? And, if you don't mind continuing, Sam, with the technology and answering Nancy's question, how do we handle, and especially being a remote organization?
Yeah, well, sure. So I am a remote manager of. I have people on my team who are in. I work from home, and they are in offices. Some of them are remote, and that's a challenge for sure. And so to me, it's about daily FaceTime, and I know it's virtual FaceTime, but it's still FaceTime on video with them. Just a quick chat, quick hello. Every morning when I get in, I'm engaging with them. If this is possible in a remote organization, I do think it's really valuable and complementary to get together in person on a regular basis, even if that's only every 6 months, once a year. But knowing that it's coming, that it's scheduled, that it's meaningful to be in the same space physically as people once in a while, especially if you're remote only, so there's no workplace where people are coming into, and or even especially for the remote employees when a lot of people are together physically, I think it's really valuable to include those remote employees. So I try to get down to New York, where a lot of my team is, every few months, going out to see the larger LinkedIn design org in May. We're going to all be together out in Silicon Valley. And I think those types of in-person organizations then create that sort of anchors that daily virtual interactions can connect to, and can hold together because you've had that relationship building time together in the same space. So I do think that's really important. But then for me as a manager who is remote, I try to be in contact every day with my employees, connecting with them, and not just with a work question, not just when I need something, but just to check in, just to say hi, just to let them know like what's going on in my life, and to see what's going on in theirs. And I do think you want to humanize that as much as possible because you would do that naturally if you saw them in person passing in the hallway.
I think I need to go with you to see the LinkedIn team and design team in Silicon Valley. Not that I'm not
Great food at that office for sure.
I just want to see the design team. Like that's my nirvana. Talking about nirvana, Nora, how would you Norvan, how would you help with your remote teams?
So I experienced that as well. Post-pandemic, we were, I want to say, over 90% remote, my team and most of IT. And I think there are creative ways to do this where yes, you need to have cameras on and do as many FaceTime touch points. But I also think there are ways to have activities where you are injecting fun back in. One of the first things we did when we were, for instance, we were still trying to do a celebration of Customer Service Week remote for like a 900 person remote workforce. We hired a company to put on some gaming and to do activities remote. And you could still play games and participate in scavenger hunts and things like that. There are ways to do this. Of course, it takes effort. Of course, it's easier to do it in person, but it doesn't mean it can't be done remote as well. But I also think having ad hoc FaceTime, like Sam mentioned, just calling somebody to check in on them, whether because it's their birthday or you heard about something that happened in their family or to wish them a happy holiday. I think that goes a long way in the absence of physical contact. So FaceTime and human time is so important, and making the time to do these things, not having everything so formalized in meeting settings and very stringent and very pristine all the time is going to go a long way.
Thank you, Nora. Rebecca.
Obviously, Nora and Sam have both touched on the human part, which is very important. Getting to know your people, you have to know them individually of what makes them tick, what's important to them, and asking them how things are going. So that's huge. I also think having a channel, using your technology, having a shout out channel where people are getting shout outs across the board, where you see what your team is doing. Having engagements where you're sending out some swag once a month or randomly to people. We sent out custom cookies whenever we launched a new location. Everybody got cookies delivered to their home. Very cool. You know, and then when people come and they're wearing their swag to those to the meetings, continuing to have those touch points is huge. I've hosted you know, murder mystery dinners just randomly for people, small groups, get us together. We're interacting and having that team building where they all got to feel engaged with stuff. I think that you just have to get really creative on what you're doing to reach each individual person, but then bringing those individuals together in group settings and take polls. What do you guys want to do to get together? How do you guys want to engage? I think so many times as leaders, we think we know what our people want when really we just need to start asking, what would engage you this month? What sounds fun? Is there something cool going on? Also, we can't ever forget charitable contributions, doing things for the community when they can pick things that are important to their local community. And then, you know, we have 50 people in one central area. They could go out and spend a day with Habitat with Humanity, whomever that is, and do something together where maybe we're not a part of it, but our teams are a part of it. And then post those pictures, celebrate those moments, and engage in those comments and have those channels to really bring people together.
Great.
Wonderful. And this is, I think, the first show we've had with the one show we've had with the most amount of takeaways ever. So I think we're gonna have to make sure.
I love the idea of murder mystery dinners. That I
So fun. It was so fun.
to go to that.
It was virtual. It was virtual. It was so cheap, and you can put it on yourself, honestly. But call me with questions. I got you.
Well, we're sure to connect with you and make sure everyone gets your LinkedIn before we leave. But I know we're quickly running out of time, and I have so many more questions I want to get to. But there are two that I can't leave without, so we'll at least start there. What do the next 5 years look like on trends that might be shaping the future of employee experience? Rebecca, do you want to start with this one?
Yes. I mean, I think that what we're seeing is that there's a lot of fatigue out there in our workforce. You know, we have a lot of new grads coming out. We have a lot of people exiting the workforce. And so bridging those gaps together and getting those people connected is going to be huge. I think that expectations are higher of what is my purpose? What is my goals here, and how do I contribute? So I think doing that on the front end, bringing those informations to your employees on the front end, in the interview process, in your job ads, all of those things are huge. But I think that one thing that I'm hearing as somebody who recruits for companies all over the United States, what I'm hearing is, what value am I going to bring to the company? What's my career path look like? So many employers forget to put that career path in there, and that's so important to people. What does my next 5 years look like? So shaping that, being a thoughtful leader of what that looks like for people is going to be huge. So whenever you bring on new people, find out what their goals are and see what you can do to cultivate that and groom them and get them to meet those goals. You're going to have a much more engaged workforce, less turnover, and they are going to help your bottom line.
Thank you, Rebecca. Nora?
So I think that's a great question. And if I had a crystal ball, I would say that organizations are actually starting to pay attention to this area because they know of all these challenges. And it is so hard to get a competitive advantage against your peers in the industry. I do think that there's going to be more and more attention to curating better employee journeys and focusing on things that motivate people and want them, have them want to come to the table with innovation and ideas. Sure, there's AI in the mix. Of course, that's going to simplify some things, but it'll also give us more space for our employees to now innovate and to do things in a very creative way. And I think that's what's going to really make a big difference. But I think because um, our workforce has options, and a lot of people are exiting the workforce, to your point, Rebecca, and starting to do solopreneur work or the gig economy thing, just do little side hustles. It's going to be more and more important for organizations to really hone in on this talent as their competitive advantage and figuring out how to harness that energy and that talent pool for their better purpose.
Thank you, Nora.
Yeah, and I think LinkedIn, we're seeing a lot of that trend play out that Nora was just highlighting. The fact that so many times people who are full-time employed, you see it on LinkedIn in their profiles, and you can link to their website and their services that they're offering. They have side gigs, they have side hustles. What you are seeing is the full array of their skills, their areas of expertise that they aren't necessarily in their current roles able to express or apply. And so I think that is something where companies have a huge opportunity to allow employees more flexibility to grow new skills for sure, but also to demonstrate a larger set of their expertise and skills. And I think there's going to be more flexibility for that, both as whether you are working with this organization as a full-time employee or in some other capacity that better reflects how tight and how long-term our relationship will be together. So I think we're already moving this direction where there's much greater flexibility and fluidity in those working arrangements. I think as long as we are aware of the skills and expertise that employees or not even employees, right? Workers, contractors in whatever form can bring to an organization, and the organization is clear-eyed about the skills it needs and is really good at organizing quickly those folks into teams to be productive. I think this is an opportunity on both sides of that equation. I do think it is tricky, right? We've talked about some of the challenges with a great employee experience. I think this amplifies some of those because you have to quickly build that rapport. You have to quickly build that psychological safety in that environment.
Great. Ellie's comment on the Savannah Bananas, which is, if anyone's ever seen it, is a very big fan first mentality. And if you ever watched some Savannah Bananas game, it really is all about the fans more so than anything else. And it's the most engaged game I've ever seen. So Sam, Ellie, thank you for the comment. And with that, we're going to start to wrap up with a final question. But and Sam, I'll start with you. But before you go, Sam, if people want to get in touch with you, how can people find you?
Well, as many people say on these types of things, find me on LinkedIn. I work at LinkedIn, but I'm on LinkedIn. I'm active there, posting a weekly podcast and newsletter. Get lots of great ideas for topics from people I interact with on the platform. So we'd love to hear from you. So find me on LinkedIn.
So Sam, what's your one piece of advice to leaders about EX before we finish?
Yeah, I want to go back to something that we were talking about at the beginning. I think, Rebecca, you were highlighting this. As a leader, be vulnerable, be human. It's okay to not be 100% sure of every decision, be right every time. And so when you make mistakes, admitting those, correcting those, acknowledging that, and being transparent, that is the easiest way to start building the psychological safety that leads to high functioning teams. Shows you are someone who is accountable and cares and is transparent. And I just think it's a superpower to be open about that and be vulnerable. And I think you go from there and you are already way ahead of a lot of leaders that I've worked for and a lot of leaders that we've all worked for over the years. It's a great start.
Yeah, sorry, when that's a mic drop moment. Very good, Sam. I appreciate that. So Rebecca, how can people find you?
LinkedIn is a great way to find me. I think that if you take a look at my LinkedIn and you scroll down to my recommendations, you'll see a little bit more about who I am and what I can bring to the table for people. I have such incredible recommendations on there. I think the other way that you can find me is on our website at gatherresources.org. It's my husband and I's website. Just a small company helping people with recruiting, business consulting, insurance, all those good things. And obviously any type of ideas on how to help your business be better.
Thank you.
Yeah, those would be the
So,
two top.
I appreciate that, Rebecca, and I hope everybody does head to your LinkedIn page, which you have a very strong following, and everyone did in short amount of time come out and support. So I appreciate that. So what's your piece of advice to leaders about employee experience?
I think get to know your people, be vulnerable, be true to who you are, be authentic. People can feel authenticity. It's an energy that resonates. And if you're true to who you are and you pour into your people, find out who they are and really lean into them individually, create relationships individually with people. Know their children's names. It's silly, but it works. And it goes a long way. And you will find that you have a bigger purpose out there too as a leader than just being a part of an organization, because you're going to change people's lives. And at the end of the day, that matters more than any other success story. So go out there and be the best you. Find out who your people are and what makes them tick, and give back to them. And don't ghost people. Stay in contact with them. Give them the feedback that they want to hear, even when it's good, even when it's bad. Just do it with humility and with love, and you will win.
So again, humility, love. I love that people always remember how you make them feel, not what you've done for them, and that sums everything you've done up. I appreciate you, so thank you.
Thank
Nora,
you.
So I appreciate you, my friend, for bringing this idea to us, and also the best baklava I've ever had. Yes, but this is a great idea, and if it weren't for you bringing this idea to me, we wouldn't be here today. So thank you. How can people find you?
So I'm also very active on LinkedIn, but I do have my own website, either getnorvana.com or noraosmond.com. Either will go to the same landing page. And recently I launched, well, not so recently, 6 months ago, I launched a 2 Cents Tuesday newsletter that goes out on Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern. And I share a lot of my insights and some of the nuggets that I find along the way. So plenty of places where you can find me. I have a YouTube channel, and I'm going to be releasing a surprise very, very soon. So you'll know more about what that is soon. So that's pretty much how people can get in touch with me.
And here on the Institute as well. So Nora, what's your advice to leaders about EX?
So I love what Sam and Rebecca said, and I'm absolutely on board with everything about authenticity, about spending time with people. But I want to take it to another level. I want to say that there are two things. Treating people as they want to be treated. It's an art form. It's applying the platinum rule. It's getting to know people, like you said, getting to know what makes them tick, and meeting them where they are, and not forcing people to fit a mold all the time or to meet your expectations. There's so much value that comes from individuals, from the diversity that we have as people. The human factor, the diversity factor is so big. So I think really taking the time to get to know people, but treating them as they want to be treated instead of applying the golden rule and assuming that everybody wants to be treated like you want to be treated. So that's one thing. And I also think learning about people's strengths and focusing on their strengths instead of their weaknesses. Because if you can put people in the path of their strength, they're going to be superstars. It's guaranteed. It's a recipe for success every time. And instead of focusing on trying to jerry-rig things to fit an equation, you really empower people once they're in that space of their strength.
Thank you, Nora. I appreciate that. And I have to say that this was a tremendous show. And if it costs twice, and Rebecca, you probably, I don't know the exact numbers, but it costs way more money to hire someone new than retain a good employee. And
Absolutely.
People aren't investing the time to watch the last hour of what the 3 you delivered, then they're not investing in their people. And you were all fantastic. I truly appreciate all of you. I appreciate everyone that participated, your questions, your comments, taking time out to watch today. Those of you who watch this in the future, thank you for all being here. Thank you all for participating. We'll see you next month with John Napoli, and we'll dive into AI, which we haven't touched in a while. But thank you all for joining us on this month of Leading Digital.
Thanks for joining Leading in the Digital Era, presented by the Institute for Digital Transformation and hosted by Robert Field. Look for new episodes coming to a LinkedIn live session at noon on the second Tuesday of every month. Can't join Robert for the live session? You can catch the replay anytime on our YouTube channel.